You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
Welcome to Mamamia Out Loud, what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 14th of October. I'm Mia Freedman.
I'm Jessie Stevens.
And I'm Vernem, filling in for Holly today. You can normally hear me on our daily entertainment podcast, The Spill.
And on the show today, welcome Em, by the way.
Thank you.
You were meant to be here last week, but you chucked a sickie.
I chucked a sickie. I know you hate that, but I did.
Noted.
Just in spite of
Were you very sick?
I was properly sick. Now I can't even say that I was properly sick because I don't sound believable.
I trust you. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's teenage daughter Sunday Rose walked the runway for Miu Miu last week. Kim Kardashian's interview with her tween daughter is going viral. But one Australian businesswoman and influencer has taken a very different approach to how she puts her child on social media, and some of her followers are weirdly angry about it. The world's #1 show is about healthy relationships and loser siblings. We're unpacking why Nobody Wants This has become the unexpected streaming hit of the year. And don't call me baby or mate, the iconic word that people are passionately arguing about this week after a retail worker got in trouble for using it at work. But first,
in case you missed it, for the first time since becoming king, Charles will be visiting Australia next week and nobody wants to go to his party.
Okay, King Charles is actually sick and he's coming to Australia.
He's paused his cancer treatment to come to Australia.
Oh, not like you last week.
Not like me.
I
didn't pause anything.
It feels rude. Can I just say that last time he was in Australia, or it might have been the time before, I was invited to go and meet him and Camilla.
Oh.
And you went. Well, you had nothing else on.
It occurred to me to not go. I did go. I felt a bit disloyal to Diana in a way, meeting Camilla, but they were a hoot.
So I've got all the excuses. So it's all the state premiers that aren't going to his kind of welcoming party in Canberra. So here are the excuses. So the Victorian Premier, Jacinta Allen, says she's at a cabinet meeting that day. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns says he's also at a cabinet meeting that day.
Well, could it be the same cabinet meeting?
Maybe it's the same one. South Australian Premier Peter Malinowskis says he has a regional cabinet meeting that day.
He can't get far enough away.
Queensland Premier Stephen Miles says he's too busy with campaigning for the re-election.
Oh, that sounds like a stretch. That's the weakest excuse I've heard thus far.
I think the best one, Tasmanian Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe is on a US trade mission, so he's actually busy.
All right, he's overseas.
He's away. Western Australia's Premier Roger Cook says he just had other commitments.
He didn't even. He took a leaf out of, I think it's Zoe Foster-Blake who's talked about this. You don't give an excuse because Charles might say, it's all right, I'll go the next day when you don't have your cabinet meeting.
Yeah.
And then you're screwed. Whereas this guy has gone, absolutely not. I'm just out for the whole week. How about the New South Wales
cabinet meeting?
Oh.
Well, that's why I went, because I didn't have a cabinet meeting, obviously. But I'm interested to understand what this means, because obviously all of these people could make themselves available, but they've chosen not to. Do you think that they all checked with each other, that there's a group chat, and they're all like, I'm not going. And it's like, well, if you're not going, then I'm not going. And it's like, well, if we all make excuses, then there's no attention on any one of us for not turning up.
For example, if Tasmania just went, you'd look very loyalist. It would be almost a political statement to be the only one going. But I just keep thinking, this is a recurring nightmare of mine. This is why I don't have birthday parties, because I have this dream that I invite all of these people to my house and no one shows up. And poor Charles must be, because remember this happened with his coronation. He asked all the people to perform and all of them said no.
Katy Perry said yes.
If you could live inside of a cartoon, which one would it be?
Barbie.
Why?
I really like Raquel, and it's a good show, and I watch it every night. I will literally be like, yes, I'm a Barb, come on.
Two things happened over the weekend that made me think about social media, children's faces, fame, and the choices that parents make. The first was Australian business owner, Kik founder Steph Claire Smith, who is mum to 3-year-old Harvey. And over the weekend, I noticed she uploaded a video of a day out with Harvey, but in that video, his face was blurred. And that was the first time I'd seen her blur his face. Reacting to what must have been some criticism, she then jumped onto her stories and said that, along with her husband, they've decided to no longer share Harvey's face. He has been recognised on the street by people he doesn't know, and that's really confusing for him. And so from now on, she said, we won't see him on her Instagram, and she has 1.5 million followers.
We won't see him at all, or we just won't see his actual face?
We won't see his face.
Okay.
And, you know, she said a lot of people are going, oh, well, why even upload that? If I scroll back, if I Google, I can find pictures of him, so what's the difference? And to that, she said, you don't have to understand my decision or agree with it. This is what we're doing moving forward. Now, the next thing I saw in my Instagram feed over the weekend was reality star and business owner Kim Kardashian speaking to Interview magazine beside her 11-year-old daughter, Northwest. Clips from that conversation have since gone viral, which you heard at the top of the segment. Northwest was speaking about her relationship with God, how much she loves Barbie, her complicated relationship with the paparazzi, and how she can't wait to start her careers. Mostly she's brimming with business ideas. She wants to have a fashion label called Northwest. And the fact that she used careers plural, I think, says everything about this upcoming generation. These two examples felt like such an illustrative snapshot of the tensions that currently exist in our culture around sharing images of children online. And if we do share, how much, at what age, and can we change our decision? Em, you know social media better than just about anyone.
Thank you.
Do you have any reaction when you see either someone share images of their kids or share images with their faces blurred out? Because I've seen that increasingly deployed as well.
When I first started seeing this happen, because I think only now a lot of my friends are having children. So there's a lot of kids on my Instagram feeds. Didn't ask for them to be there. I don't follow them. I follow my friends. Unfollow. Get this out of my face.
Nobody wants this, you said.
But what I've noticed is that, you know how Instagram has like a close friends options when you do your Instagram stories? I've noticed that a lot of them will blur their kid's face on their main stories or their feed, but have the normal photo without the blur on their close friend stories. And I don't know how to ask, why am I allowed to see your child? And who's not allowed to see your child? Like, who doesn't make it?
So
into
these
this?
aren't famous people, to be clear.
No, these are like my friends who aren't famous.
I've got people who are influencers who I see do the same thing. I wonder that too. I go,
who are you hiding from?
Who is, and I get it. Like maybe they know that they've got certain journalists or they've got, I mean, I'm a journalist. But
oh, no, I completely understand that. That's about having control because anyone can follow you. If you're not private, anyone can follow you on social media, and particularly if you need to have a public account for your job, particularly if you're an influencer. But if you're any person in the public eye, everybody kind of needs to promote their business these days, no matter what it is. So there will always be people following you who you don't know. Whereas with close friends, you can literally choose, maybe that's only 4 people or maybe that's 40 people, but they're all people who you actually know.
But what I want to know is also, if you're going to blur your kid's face, why post the photo in the first place? I think it ruins a really good photo.
I have heard a few of my friends get snarky about this because they say just don't share it. It's fine. I will defend people uploading pictures with a blurred face because if you want to share scenes from your life and if you're a content creator, if you've got to feed that beast, then I totally get how you want to share parts of you and what you're doing. Your child is inevitably probably in some of those images. And so blurring their face means you can still share it but not reveal their identity. And I think this is something I'm grappling with.
So you're saying that you can, this is going to sound wrong, perform your identity as a parent. And I don't mean performing as being faking, but like sharing your identity as a parent without sharing your child's actual identity.
Exactly. And if you're a parent, then that is what your weekends look like. Like, what are you meant to do? Kick them out of the photo?
I was going to say kick them out of the photo. Like, do one photo for the family and then one without the kids. So it's like you're just like in an empty high chair, like feeding nothing.
I don't know. I totally get it because my tension around this has been how do we protect the images of children who can't consent to having their image shared while also having important conversations about parenting and motherhood and not erasing the experience of parenting from the public domain? Like how do you have conversations about that without children?
Well, maybe it's by blurring faces. I mean, it's interesting. I'm now going through it again with Luna, my granddaughter, your child. And I'm really I'm actually not conflicted about it. I'm just not going to do it. I just haven't done it. At first, I didn't do it because I didn't feel that it was my right to do it, because it's up to you and Luca. Now I feel very clearly that I don't want to do it for the same reason that I don't do it for my own children and never have, because I have a lot of people who are following me and not all of those people like me. Some of those people follow me, and I would never want to put anyone that I love in that situation. And also, my children don't want to be public people. Northwest clearly does. Sunday Rose clearly does, so she's on a catwalk. Although Nicole and Keith have almost never shared photos of their children. It's interesting now she's 16, she could consent. And I know that's not social media, that's being in the public eye. The question is, what are children consenting to? And are they capable of making those kinds of decisions?
And I suppose too, what are parents consenting to, right? Because we don't know. It's an ever-changing beast that we don't fully understand. And what I really respect about Steph Claire Smith, I defend her right to change her mind about it. I think that that's a 1-year-old is different to a 3-year-old is different to a 13-year-old, and we're all at different stages. And I think that's the thing with parenting too, is that everyone has different values or a hierarchy of values when it comes to parenting, and no judgment about what they are. Like, my child is probably eating a lunch right now that would horrify some listeners because the nutritional makeup of her lunch isn't my number one priority, right? But for other people, like if Steph Claire Smith did want to share her child's face, like, that's just how she's choosing to parent. And because it's so public, I think everyone then feels like they get to have an opinion about it.
I think it's because we're all figuring it out. But the other thing is what she said, which is so relevant, and I hadn't really thought about it before, is that it's a safety issue for these children. You have to teach your children about stranger danger and who you speak to in public and who's a safe person and who's not. If someone suddenly knows your name, recognises you, calls out to you in the street, you're always with a 3-year-old. But what if you're not?
Yeah.
What when they're a little bit older and they're waiting outside the school gate and someone's like, hey, Harvey, your mum told me to come and pick you up, or even just, hey, Harvey, can I have a selfie? And you're not there to protect Harvey.
And how are you to anticipate that before it happens? That's something that I've recognised, right? Like, I might have told this on the podcast before, but I was sharing images of Luna in particularly the first few months of her life. She is my entire world, so it feels like what else would I share? And a few comments popped up about, I'd spoken on the podcast about her, she was slow to gain weight, and a few really critical comments popped up about Luna and about how she looked. And I read those and had this fierce protective instinct of, say what you want about me, but you don't get to say that about my daughter. Like, I was so horrified by that. And I never would have thought that would happen. Like, which sounds so silly because you go, well, of course people are going to be critical. If people hate you, they'll hate your kid.
But of a baby?
It's like I had to have that experience to go, all right, I am going to be forever navigating my relationship between how much I share about me and my child and all of it.
If Luna becomes more recognizable when she gets older, because right now, for me, like, all babies kind of look the same. So I understand.
No, I agree with you.
I understand the change, like showing your baby and then it becomes recognizable, so then you stop. Do you reckon we'll stop showing her?
We've talked before about leaking intimacy and having moments, you know, my phone is just photos and videos of Luna that are being sent to family all the time.
And we're content creators.
Yeah.
So it's challenging, right? Because you're like, this is a funny story. This is a cute video. We all try to show up on social in an authentic way. And it often strikes me that my children and now Luna are my whole world, and I don't put any of them on social at all. But we're sort of talking about the downside of it. The other side of it is just that when you're on social media, whether you have a big following or whether you don't, people do have a parasocial relationship with you, right? And that is a weird thing to come to terms with and to process. And we're all still doing it, like that people feel that they know us because they do know us because we put a lot of ourselves out there, whether it's on this show or on our socials. But that is a very big burden to give a child because the person who wants a selfie might not be a kidnapper. They might just want a selfie. But that's weird. Like, it's not a decision that they ever made.
What's
whereas
hard
it's
too,
I don't know, it's just a bit of a head scramble.
I suppose, is that if you are a public figure, then there's an element of that happening anyway, right? You're walking down the street and people go, oh my goodness, Hamish Blake.
Yeah.
And if you're with your kids, then suddenly they're thrust into the spotlight. And we know Northwest is talking about being papped. Like, these children are also being photographed without their permission. For the likes of Northwest, I was thinking, yeah, she was in Vogue at one, but also her life has been the stuff of a reality television show since she was born. So, of course.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to watch that video and read that interview. And she's on the cover of this magazine and she's 11, right? And one of the quotes, or one of the, it was her mother doing the interview. But I felt this sounds like concern trolling, but the stuff you say at 11, I don't know if you want that immortalised. Like, she says some pretty full-on stuff about God and about the devil and her siblings and, even some of the more innocuous stuff. Kim says to her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And North says, I don't know, because I already do a lot of stuff that I want to be when I grow up. I just want to pursue my careers now. And then Kim says, that's amazing that you know so young. What would be your fake name? This is the family business. The family business is reality TV. It's selling product. It's having all these kinds of opportunities because of your name. And she sees her whole family work really hard as well. But they exist in front of the camera. She's never known anything else, and so does her father.
I saw as well just recently Saint, who's the, I think, next youngest maybe, got a YouTube account, and Kim Kardashian had Saint sign a contract that she shared. All the accounts, even Kim and North, the TikTok account is definitely overseen by an adult. Yeah. You can tell, and it's pretty harmless stuff. But when you're a parent, I think that you assume that everyone will love your child as much as you do, because you see something very different to what the rest of the world sees.
Yes.
So when I was sharing those images of Luna, I was like, can you even believe this?
I have had the most breathtaking child, and people are like, she looks like a potato.
Yeah, and you're like, this is the whole universe in an image. Yeah. Can you believe anything has ever been this cute? And the thing about the world is that they are simply not looking at the same photograph.
No.
And so even Northwest, I've seen, do you remember recently The Lion King?
Everybody look right. Everybody look right. Everybody look right.
Oh, The Lion King.
She performed in the musical, and there was a Lion King clip, and then that went viral because a lot of people went, well, I think that it's nepotism that she got this role and it was a terrible performance, and listen to her voice.
I felt the same way about Sunday Rose Kidman-Urban, who opened the show for Miu Miu. Now, she's a girl who was always, the minute she was on a red carpet, and I noticed that Nicole had her two daughters when she was inducted into a Hall of Fame for something recently. She had her two daughters on the red carpet with her for the first time, along with her sister and her niece. I was like, oh, those girls are going to be models in a hot second, because they're tall, they're beautiful, they're all of those things. But to open a Miu Miu show, that is a big friggin' deal. And I get that she's 16. What an amazing opportunity. But she got absolutely slammed, because that's what the internet is, right? There are going to be people who are going to be lovely, but most of the people who are going to comment are going to say horrible things. Oh, that's a big thing to expose your child to. So as a parent, how do you balance that between, here's this amazing opportunity, what am I exposing them to?
Because it has to come out one way, right? So is it better to come out as an 11-year-old or as a 16-year-old? Even with the Northwest stuff, I was watching that interview and everything she says in my eyes seemed fine for an 11-year-old to say, because all 11-years are narcissists. That's something I 100% would have said.
True.
I would have said the exact same thing, can't wait to do my careers. Except my mum would have been like, that's nice, sweetie. Whereas Kim Kardashian's like, tell me more. She's indulging that behavior.
Let's trademark it.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference, where they've been sheltered and then suddenly they want to do something and their parent has to decide, should I do it now or should I wait a bit later? When will be the strongest point in their life that they can have this feedback come back?
And let's not pretend that we're not marinating in a culture where having a public presence isn't something most people want, even at 11. The thing about Northwest, even watching that, Northwest wants to be on camera. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say this about content creators going, my 5-year-old loves it. We have all this time together, and I know that it can, to some people, it might look a bit dangerous, but there are very few jobs that allow a parent to spend time with their child while also making money, to make homemaking or what's happening inside the house monetized.
What's tricky is I came up in the internet at the time of mummy bloggers, and it was an amazing time, and it was the first time that women's roles as parents were visible, and that was a beautiful thing, and it helped so many people feel seen, and also the people express themselves. But the toll on those children when the internet flipped and needed you to make money, make branded content. You know, Heather Armstrong was very famously probably the OG mummy blogger, and she had a blog called Deuce, and she used to write so incredibly about her children and parenting, and she was such a funny writer. But then when she had to do branded content, she was like, my kids hate having to do this and perform and talk about this brand or go in this car and she was really torn, and she had to give it up because they just didn't want to do it. And I was listening to a podcast interview with a YouTube family creator who made the same decision. But it's hard to walk away from all of that money. And the money is also, you know, was going to pay for their college and becomes a way to support the family.
Means your work can be a lot more flexible. You get to spend more time with the people you want to spend more time with.
Yeah, so those decisions become even harder when money is involved, and you might feel one way that I don't want to show my child's face, but then you get this opportunity, well, we're going to pay you $10,000 if you do this thing for this brand with your child in it, and then you say, well, that $10,000 could...
means I work one less day away.
Yeah, exactly, and I can be with my child more, or the opportunities that it brings you. So there's no easy answer. I think what I love about Steph Claire Smith is that she's figuring it out.
And I also resent that in this whole conversation, the only people we ever talk about are mothers. I have never heard or even seen a comment about a father sharing a picture of their child. It's just applause that you're spending a bit of time with them. Outlouders, let us know what you think. You can jump into the Outloud Facebook group. You can send us a voice note and send it to outloud@mamamia.com.au. We always love your feedback. And if you want to hear more from Steph Claire Smith, there is a brilliant episode of But Are You Happy? You can listen to that by clicking on the link in the show notes.
Mamamia out loud! You should be mine for life.
Are you dating Hot Rabbi?
We definitely are a we.
I just heard him introduce you as his friend.
Yeah, totally.
You're going to turn your whole life upside down for this girl?
You're never going to end up with my son.
On the weekend, it was announced that the Netflix rom-com, Nobody Wants This, is going to have a second season after the first season has been the number one show in the streaming world for the last couple of weeks. It stars Adam Brody, who was, I didn't watch the OC. Seth Cohen. He plays Noah, a cool LA rabbi who falls in love with an agnostic podcast host called Joanne, played by Kristen Bell.
Veronica Mars.
Didn't watch that either.
A millennial's wet dream.
Joanne isn't Jewish, but the show is about how love conquers all, or maybe it doesn't. It was created by Erin Foster, who, like Joanne, hosts a podcast with her sister and married a Jewish guy despite not being Jewish herself. And there are two big themes in the show that we think has contributed to its breakthrough global success. And we wanted to unpack them today. Will there be spoilers? Not really. This isn't really about the show itself.
Because I will speak from the perspective, I've got 2 episodes to go, and so I will not have it spoiled. I still don't know, will they, won't they? I don't have the answer yet, so no spoilers from you two.
A challenge.
Okay. Not really, because anyway, I won't spoil it. The first theme of this show, why people are saying that it's really cut through, is that it depicts the idea of healthy relationships, or more importantly, it flips the script on the usual girl chases guy who doesn't want to commit stereotype by portraying this very securely attached guy, Noah, who's trying to pin down an avoidant woman, Joanne, who is a bit of a fuck up. And it also has a great subplot of the main character's siblings, and this is the second sort of theme we wanted to explore. Noah's brother and Joanne's sister call themselves loser siblings, and they make a group chat between the two of them called that.
Having siblings is hard, especially when one sibling is the clear loser.
You may be suffering from loser sibling syndrome if
your sibling cringed in school when teachers asked if the two of you were related.
Your sibling jokes that you'll have to live in their basement one day.
There's a secret family group chat that you're not a part of.
You dated yet another walking red flag. And instead of being surprised, your family says, That's so you.
You were born the middle child.
Sound familiar? We thought so.
That's been so successful that TikTok is demanding the loser siblings, who are Justine Loop, who plays Morgan, and Timothy Simons, who plays Sasha, have their own show because they want to know what happens with them. I actually, funnily enough, did an episode of No Filter this week about attachment theory and this idea of the secure attachment style and all the other attachment styles. There are 3 others, and the secure is the most healthy, but it's not shown in rom-coms very much.
Ever. And it's not ever shown in even like fiction, movies, rom-coms, because in order for there to be a complication, that complication often has to be internal. So there are all these roadblocks. So someone is anxiously attached or avoidant, and so you have one chasing, like a cat and mouse situation.
Yeah.
What was genius about this was that the complication which is required in order to sustain a 10-episode...
And 10 episodes is long.
It's long. All the complications were external. They were the fact that he is Jewish and he's a rabbi.
His family didn't approve.
His family didn't approve.
Her sister didn't approve.
Yeah. So actually their relationship from the beginning... And what I thought was so appealing about it was that I went, that is what it's like meeting your person. Like, when you fall in love, I'm sure this isn't universal, but in my experience, when I fell in love, it became very uncomplicated internally. There wasn't, will he text? You know, we've just seen the phenomenon of It Ends With Us, where there's all this really toxic behavior. That toxic stuff for, you know, healthy relationships often evaporates. And this became like a bingo card of green flags, of all the things that when you see in someone, like organising the date, being emotionally available, apologising when you stuff up, not lying.
Not hiding things.
All of it.
Being transparent.
Was like a guidebook. There's this article going around about a different movie and kind of praise kink. This is like healthy relationship kink in terms of the woman who just wants someone who is stable, predictable, clearly is really into her.
Yeah.
And there's a complication because otherwise we wouldn't watch it, but it's all external.
Does that actually exist though in real life? Like that secure, like I've never once met a secure person. In relationships. I feel like there's always an avoidant and always an anxious. Like someone's always chasing. Someone always likes the other person a little bit more.
Yes, but you don't have to be avoidant. I think that in this, I said that Joanne was avoidant. You're right, Jessie. She's not actually avoidant, but
she's complicated.
And she doesn't know. But you're right. They just want to be together.
Early on in the series, she has this moment where she says, I'm terrified I'm too much, that I'm going to say I want you, that I'm going to have to rely on someone and that you're going to say I'm too much. And I was reading this review that said, you know, millions of women around the world have had that exact dialogue where they've tried to sustain their own sort of independence because they don't want to be porous and they don't want to rely on someone because they're terrified of being let down. And in this case, the show was almost showing the stability of Adam Brody.
It's funny you say that. My favourite line in the whole thing, the one that just made me melt, was when he said, I can handle you.
Yeah.
That was hot.
I was like, oh.
I think as well that what you say about the loser siblings, the gold for me was also the relationship between the sisters. I think there are a few things funnier, you know this, Em, than the relationship between sisters. Like it is so nuanced and so weird and so perfectly written that for a lot of women, we also saw...
Was the sister relationship well written, as you both have sisters and I don't?
And I think the reason they made them sisters was because if they were best friends and they had like that big fight, I don't think they could have convinced us that they would make up so quickly. Whereas with sisters, you always make up.
In the same conversation.
And like, do you want to go just watch a movie now?
The chemistry as well, like... Everyone's talking about how this chemistry just exploded and the kiss and, you know, they're both obviously very attractive. Interestingly, they're totally ageless. Like they don't give any indications of how old they are. Marriage, babies don't really come up other than the Jewish thing. But the chemistry for me came from the humour. Like they just had exactly the same sense of humour and that was the hottest thing.
The banter.
The banter that kind of went back and forth. And the podcasting I thought was funny because Sex and the City is obviously like the kind of sitcom that every millennial Gen X woman is obsessed with. And that was the column The rom-com has this device of like even How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, where it's the column and you're writing and you're living and you're reflecting and you're funny.
It's the career girl of the moment. What's her job?
Yes. And in this, it was basically Call Her Day.
Yes, except with two of them. And it's funny because I went and listened to their actual podcast, which is shambolic. Like it made me feel good about us in terms of how organised we are, but it is actually a very accurate depiction, and they are just like wandering off and going to the bathroom and eating, and it's funny because I think they've got a whole lot more listeners now and
it's blown up.
But it's still as completely shambolic and disorganised. But they were saying that one of the criticisms of the series is, as if you could make enough money to support yourself by having this shambolic podcast, and they were like, we do, and we have, as they threw to one of their 17 ads. You actually wrote a story for Mamamia that was about another issue that you found really poignant when you watched this show.
Yeah, this is exactly the relation we were talking about before, the relationship between Joanne and Morgan, the sisters. When you see Joanne kind of just swept away into this relationship, and Justine acts this so well because you can see the cogs in her brain, like as she's acting this out, of like, watching your person find their person and seeing yourself slowly lose them.
The sense of loss.
And the sense of loss. And you can't be upset because it's not like you were in a relationship with them, and you have to be happy for them because you want them to be happy. And it's one of those situations where it's happened to me so many times where like I've had my best friend and then she falls in love and I see her slowly like stepping out of my life in weird ways, like finding out like, oh, I'm not your emergency contact anymore, or like, oh, you don't have me on Find My Friends anymore. And I'm meant to be okay with that. And I don't even get the breakup.
Yeah.
Like I just get the slow ghost.
That's so interesting. That's a little bit like when your child grows up and falls in love and moves away from you. It's a little bit like when Luca found you, Jessie. Not such a sense. The sense of loss was smaller. For me, there was also the beautiful sense of gain of watching your person be loved in the way that you think they deserve to be loved. That's beautiful.
I certainly had that with Claire. Like when she met her person a lot younger than I did, it was this mix of grief and joy, like this bizarre mix.
And I think that's why I was impressed they made them sisters, because even being that single best friend, you know there are certain things you can't say without it sounding like you're the sad single best friend. Like you can't comment on their partner if you didn't like something they said, because then you're jealous. You're a jealous person who just wants to be in a relationship. And you're on the sad dating apps.
With your sister or with friends it's happened?
With friends. It's happened with friends. I think there's too much of an age gap between me and my sister. But when they were having that fight and Joanne said, it's like not my fault, you're still stuck on the sad dating apps, that hit something in me.
Yeah, that was a deep cut.
Because I feel like when you're talking about like the dating app stage of life, a lot of people see that as a phase. And I'm like, some women have been on dating apps their entire like dating life.
And there's a smugness of like, I graduated.
I got out.
Yeah. And you're still stuck at school. Like there's
that hit a nerve, and I was like so happy that blew up for them. Like that was like the catalyst.
Because you felt defensive.
Yeah.
Outlouders, if you want to hear more about attachment styles and what yours might be, plus what it says about you, guess what? I'm not one of the functional ones. There's only one functional one, and I'm not. Have a listen to today's episode of No Filter when you can hear my conversation with Dr. Morgan Anderson, who is an expert on attachment theory. There is a link in the show notes.
And what do you think you are? What attachment style?
I've been told by a man, I think he said to me, have you always been an avoidant?
So the 4 styles are secure, avoidant, anxious, and disorganised.
Oh, which one's the worst? It's avoidant, isn't it?
Secure is the only one you want to be. That's where we're all aiming to be. It's at the top of the leaderboard.
Something to work towards.
If you want to know what Holly and I are, you can listen to tomorrow's subscriber episode where, look, we took a quiz and we had some insights and there was a bit of soul searching. So you can listen to that tomorrow. Want unlimited Out Loud access? We drop episodes every Tuesday and Thursday exclusively for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get us in your ears 5 days a week. And a huge thank you to all our current subscribers.
Mate.
Mate?
Oh, hey! Hey, mate!
Yo, mate.
Mate.
Thanks, mate.
Look, mate. No, you look, mate.
A father of a retail worker went on Reddit to ask if calling someone mate was now offensive. So he said that his daughter called a customer mate, and towards the end of their interaction, the customer said, "Can I tell you something? Please don't call me mate." His daughter then apologized and said, "I'm sorry if I've offended you." The customer said, "It's unprofessional to use that word in the workplace." He said that his daughter was pretty sure the customer was Australian and is now kind of spiraled and has stopped using any sort of language at all with customers. So I went onto this Reddit post and I was looking at all of the comments, and a lot of them were quite shocked that someone said that it's offensive, don't call me mate. But there were a few people who did say that it's not offensive, but it is unprofessional. Jessie, what goes through your mind when someone's like, "Hey mate, how are you going?"
It is so neutral to me that I don't even hear it. I absolutely use it in the workplace. I used to work behind a bar for years and years. Always said mate. I like it because it's gender neutral. I can say it to men and women.
So you say mate to women?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if one of the reasons, if I have got this gender dynamic correct, did an older man not like being called mate by a younger woman? And is it because the word mate infers equality? And that's why I think that it's uniquely Australian, because everyone's your mate. It kind of suggests that there's no hierarchy and that we're all on the same level. And so there are some...
He thought she should have been subservient.
Yes. I wonder if that's what it was about, that he should have been sir or something that kind of...
My king.
My king.
That it was too informal.
It was too informal, and that she should... Because sometimes they teach you, I remember it when I worked at this pub, they wanted you to say sir and ma'am, as a way of...
At the pub.
And I was like, I will, over my dead body, I will just not be referring. And I also think it makes people feel old.
Yeah.
And I think...
What if you're serving someone younger than you?
Exactly. Sometimes I see it in the eyes of people who are giving you coffee or whatever, where they choose whether they're going to go with, dal, ma'am,
pet,
petal, love.
Sweetheart.
Yeah. I don't think we should be choosing spur of the moment. I think it makes people feel judged. I think we just go mate.
You think mate's a safe bet?
I think it's safe.
I was thinking about the word mate and how its versatility is possibly what can make it problematic, because how it's intended might not be how it's received. So tone and setting and subject, all of these things can completely alter the definition of the word. So you can call your best friend mate with great affection, right? So that's the way I think most people would be thinking about it in this context, mate, how have you been? But you can also address a complete stranger as mate in an unfamiliar encounter, particularly if you don't know their name, if you've forgotten their name.
Yeah.
Mate or babe are the two easy ones.
Yep. Luca has said to me before, actually, we've been doing something at home and I've gone something like, listen here, just use the word mate to Luca, and he has said that gives me the ick.
Really?
He really doesn't like it in a romantic relationship because it's quite
snarky.
It's snarky, but it's also very unsexual.
Yeah,
that's true.
A little bit distant. Do you use it?
But there's other ways. I've got more ways. It can be a complete sentence, mate. That's
yes,
almost
it
complete.
says a lot. It says a lot.
That can also convey exasperation. And then if you say it speedily, with a bit of a snap in your voice, it can make it very clear that you're pissed off. Mate, you're in my car spot.
Yeah.
Someone said that to me.
Yeah.
Just yesterday.
It feels more aggressive than if they said you're in my car spot.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And then old mate, maybe she called him old mate, even like that. I actually like old mate. And then when we often will say to Holly or you, if I'm talking about Jordan Peterson, I'll go, your mate Jordan Peterson is in the news, which is
and
he's
he's not my mate. Figure out. Yeah.
So there's so many different ways to use it. And that's why I think maybe it can be misinterpreted sometimes.
I'm similar to Luca. I never use the word mate. I hate it. But I will use the word mate when I'm talking to certain men to make sure that they know I don't want to have sex with them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Play that out. How does it work?
Well, if a guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, can I buy you a drink or anything? No, thanks, mate.
Oh, yes.
That's a very, no, this is platonic.
Yeah.
Because if you just went, no, thanks, it would.
No, thank you.
It would open.
You'd be like, oh, can I get you something else?
I love it when men call me mate.
Really?
I really do. I also like it when women call me mate.
I think it's friendly.
When my kids
casual.
call me mate, they're taking the piss.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You right, mate?
Our executive producer, who I think this context is important because we are missing the British perspective in Holly, who is.
Do you want me to put in an accent?
Yes, I think you should put a Manchurian accent. She was saying that when she first got to Australia, she found it aggressive, that it was something that in a different context can feel like, hey, mate, can just feel like, I guess it can feel quite blokey and aggressive. I can kind of see how that would.
It can be a bit like the precursor to some biffo. Like, like it can almost be an insult, like an aggressive challenge to someone.
But the ones I'm hearing a lot lately are, hey, boss, have you heard this? Like I hear it at the gym.
Queen.
Boss.
My daughter calls me Queen.
That's so cute.
Do you like it? That's sweet.
She doesn't, no, like I don't care. Like I'll just be called anything.
How about, hey, champ?
I don't mind. Buddy.
I like Buddy. I think Buddy's cute.
Hey, Buddy.
Hi, Buddy.
Hi, Buddy.
A few of the
That's
comments in the
kids.
Reddit thread said, why don't you just call them friend? Hey, friend.
I don't know
instead
this
of
person.
mate.
Oh,
And
I
was
say
like,
that sometimes. I'll say, hey, friend, if I can't remember someone's name often. Hey,
to the
friend.
person at the cafe or the fruit and veg shop.
No, but someone who I'm familiar with. Actually, not just people that
You say
whose
sweetie.
names I don't
You
remember.
say sweetie a lot.
Hey, sweetie. Hey, friend. I'll say hey, friend. That's
So-
like an affectionate.
What's your term of endearment for the lovely person behind the counter when you're doing your grocery shopping? What do you call them?
Thanks, you're a legend. I'll call them. I use them like a noun, like a legend. I won't say mate.
No.
I won't say buddy. I won't say.
I say
I
you're
won't
the best.
say babe. Yeah,
You're the
I
best.
won't call them anything. I don't know. I've got a friend who calls waiters darling, female waiters darling. I don't like it. I think because she's never been a waiter and I have been.
I don't hate it.
You don't like? You don't
I
mind
don't
darling?
hate darling.
I
I
don't
think,
like darling.
well, it depends on the tone and whether or not it's condescending. But if they're being complimentary,
it-
I'm happy for them to call me anything but
Yeah. Oh no, I don't mind. I use that as a term of affection too.
As the boss in this room,
Yeah.
is it unprofessional? If I was using mate a lot in the workplace, in meetings,
There was a time where you hated when we said dude. Do you remember that? You made like a full announcement saying stop calling people dude.
Did I?
Yeah, it was weird.
I remember someone who once started working here and had just met me started calling me bestie.
Was that me? No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't
That would have
you.
been half of my time.
Yeah. I think language is fun. I like people to play with language.
So we asked people in the Mamamia office who've moved to Australia some of the phrases they did not understand. Here's what they said.
My favourite Australian saying, possibly my favourite saying, hands down from anywhere, is I'm not here to fuck spiders. Because it makes no sense, but at the same time, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm also just waiting to finally meet the person who actually is here to fuck spiders. That will be a very special day for me.
So when I first moved to Australia from New Zealand, we would always go to barbecues and to drinks with a chili bin. And so I'd be telling everyone to put everything in the chili bin, or like, where's the beer? And I'm like, well, in the chili bin. And you call it esky here, which is actually after the brand, where we're quite literal in New Zealand, and we call it a chili bin, so something that you get chilled in the bin.
Okay, so when I first moved to Australia, some very lovely mums at the school gate said, come over, got a few people coming, bring a plate. I thought this was a little strange. I was like, I can bring a plate, I will bring a plate. But then I was like, do I put food on the plate? Surely not. I don't understand. Anyway, I turned up, I had a pack of emergency SOS Tim Tams in my bag, but I also had a plate just in case. And I've got lots of expat friends here who have all confessed the same. We had no idea.
Outlouders, I'm sure you've got your own. Head to the Outlouders Facebook group and share them with us. That's it from us today, Outlouders. We could go on, but our producers are hovering with a taser to stop us talking. Good luck.
Outlouders, if you enjoyed Amelia Lester on the show last week, then you'll probably love our US election subscriber episodes. I learnt so much about Melania Trump because Amelia, of course, sat down and read the whole book beginning to end. So if you want to hear that, there's a link to that episode in the show notes.
Bye. Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and want to support us as well, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do so. There is a link in the episode description.